Welcome into the Off-Brand Avalanche podcast. Today, we will be talking some NHL draft, and at the end, we will be giving you our top 8 mock draft. We're just going to go through the picks that we know, so it's kind of hard to mock players to teams we don't know. But before we talk draft, any little things, any little anecdotes you guys have?
Not for me. Yeah, the only interesting thing that's happened in the NHL is the draft lottery that just happened. So very
Yeah.
interested to see who ends up with that first pick. I know we'll go more into that, but yeah.
We will.
Yeah, no, I guess I got nothing really more to add. I guess I'm going to be playing Gary Bettman in this segment, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, when we get to the mock draft, I think we'll do that last. First, we're just going to talk some basic kind of ripple effects of what happened with the lottery. The first player that I want to touch on, which anyone who saw on Twitter I posted a mock draft will know this, but I think Jamie Drysdale this didn't go well for him. I think that I saw him going anywhere from 3 to 6, and now I think that he goes 6 at the earliest.
I guess we'll get into that in our mock draft, but I could see him going earlier than that. But yeah, I know that Billy, you're a big fan of Drysdale, and if he lands on the team that you know is supposed to be picking him at 4, then maybe you won't be the biggest fan of Drysdale anymore.
Yeah, I like him. I like those, offensive-minded defensemen, but my only issue with him is I think that he's a little bit overhyped in this class just because, he is at least for most of the year has been considered the top defenseman in the class. Jake Sanderson really making a push towards the end. But I don't think he's the same caliber of defenseman as we've seen in the last couple classes. I think Bowen Byram was a better prospect, and I also think that, obviously, Rasmus Dahlin was a better prospect. He went first overall for a reason.
And Quinn Hughes came out of that draft as well.
Yeah,
and that was
later,
7th overall, so
yeah.
That was a very good defensive draft. And the draft right before that brought us Cale Makar and Miro Heiskanen, so we've had a few drafts of just absolute offensive dynamo defensemen.
Yeah, we've been spoiled for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the other X factor we need to talk about is Yaroslav Askarov, because this is a guy. The only thing I will say for certain is that he's not going number 1. And other than that, he could go anywhere in really the top 20. I think there's an outside shot he even goes at number 2. And I think there's an outside shot he falls even in maybe to 20.
Yeah, I could see him being anywhere, like Billy was saying, top 20, top 5 draft pick. He could be this year's Moritz Seider type, where just kind of an out-of-the-blue pick that no one saw coming.
Yeah,
but
definitely. He could go anywhere, really. So those are really the 2 prospects that I wanted to talk about that really affect this order a little bit. Any guys you want to touch on, Marshall, before we move into our conspiracy segment?
A couple of Swedes that I think are very interesting to me and have been some of my favorite players in this draft the entire season, being Lucas Raymond and Alexander Holtz.
I do love Holtz.
I think that either of them could end up being some of the best players in this draft. They definitely fell a little bit in the rankings as the season progressed. But in terms of watching highlights on YouTube or whatever, these 2 players are a couple of my favorite. I just love the Swedes. I was talking to Zach the other day that Pettersson is one of my favorite players in the league just because he just brings that total Swedish style game to North America and makes it work. And love watching
then you got Landeskog, who is a Swede but doesn't play like it.
Yeah, exactly. But those Swedes and Finns definitely bring a very exciting game to North America.
Yeah, love to watch it.
I'm just gonna be interested to see where those two guys fall, because
Yeah.
you know,
Probably the top two wings on the board.
yeah,
It's just at what point do we see the wings come off? Because I know there's a couple teams at the top that are really looking center.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And they're, well, I mean, whether or not you classify Lafreniere as a center or a wing, though.
Yeah, I guess I forgot Lafreniere. He's a wing.
Yeah,
I just kind of the draft starts at 2. You know.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, past Lafreniere. But
Yeah.
there is some pretty freaking solid centers in this draft, I must say. This is
Yeah,
this is
I
a
love it. I
very,
think this is
this is a
the
very
best forward draft in a few
yeah,
years.
yeah.
And while we're talking about Swedish wings, since this is an Avalanche pod, I do want to talk about one of my draft crushes this year. If he makes it to the Avs, I'd really love to see us draft Noel Gunler, another Swedish wing. Obviously not in the same tier as Raymond and Holtz. We wouldn't be talking about him falling to the Avs if he was, but a guy that he's got a lot of potential. I think he could be a second line wing in the NHL and would be a steal for the Avs where they're picking somewhere in the late 20s to 30s.
Yeah. I would also say so. Yeah, I just love the Swedes, so anytime the Avs
Yeah.
have the chance to pick up a highly skilled winger that could fit in on the second line, you're not going to get a no from me on that one.
Yep. All right, so let's move into, I foreshadowed it a little bit, but we've got a conspiracy segment today. Every year when the draft lottery happens, there is a lot of talk about whether or not it is rigged. And as Avs fans, me and Marshall, we bought into it a little bit last year. Not because we really thought it was rigged, but because we were mad that we lost.
Yeah.
So we were saying, hey, we got jumped by 2 original 6 teams. There's something up here.
Yes.
So I don't think that the draft lottery is rigged. I would like to say and state right now, if Montreal wins the first overall pick and the French-Canadian team gets the best French-Canadian prospect in 20 years, with going into this a 1.5% chance is what they had to get that pick. If that does play out, I will lose all faith in the draft lottery.
I mean, it's not necessarily unlikely at this point. They jumped from 1.2, like you said, to I think all the play-in teams
It's
have a
6.25 right now. If they lose, it's 12.5.
Yeah. So, and on all accounts, I see them losing. So, a
Yeah,
1.2%,
probably closer to 12.5.
yeah. That is absolutely not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, the Canadian fans in particular, would be absolutely electrified if they were able to pick Lafreniere, because I know that some of them have been watching him, just grow up. And,
Oh, yeah, in the queue.
yeah.
Yeah, just to me, like, it's too convenient, though. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it would be the biggest jump, I guess not from 8, which is where the Habs were, but since the pick was from 12, the biggest jump to number 1 in NHL history.
Yeah.
The year the guy that's a perfect fit for Montreal is really coming in. I guess I want to get your opinion. Do you think the lottery is rigged, and if this happens, will that sway you in any way?
Personally, if that does happen, then yes. Like you were saying, that is way too convenient for the Habs to do it. But yes, I'm going to go out there and say no, I do not think it's rigged, although I have been very skeptical over the last few years. The 2016-2017 Avs, who finished with an abysmal 48 points, got jumped by the freaking Devils, and we fell to 4, although that 4th overall pick did not necessarily turn out to be too shabby for us.
Yeah, I'm not too upset with Kale.
But then even last year, like we were saying, another time that we have the best
Yeah.
odds to even not only like get first overall, but then, just give us a second or a third pick. Nope. Get jumped by the Devils again, and get jumped by not only the Devils, but like you were saying, 2 original 6 teams in the Hawks and the Rangers.
One of them a division rival.
I mean, when I was watching
Which
that
part of
lottery-
that is more... Part of it is more that it just sucks. Like, the Avs falling to 4 twice in a row, it's still a 25% chance of happening, so it's not, like, perfectly within the realm of possibility. It makes sense. but the original 6 teams doing it, and then New Jersey, another somewhat a large city, not necessarily the biggest market, a little bit on the fishier side, but again, like I said, nothing has swayed me. I'm at this point I fully believe that the draft lottery is a fair system. It's just that little hint of doubt. If Montreal does win this, that's when I'm over that line and I'm like, all right, well, something's up here.
Yeah, I guess a couple potential scenarios that would scare me with this lottery system that we have right now would be if the Maple Leafs somehow get stacked up and get
Ooh.
Lafreniere, they could definitely lose to the Blue Jackets and get that 12.5, 50% chance or whatever it is. And also the Hurricanes, that would be so scary if they did that as
Yeah,
well.
a couple of teams, and then just anyone in the Central.
Yeah,
If he could
please
just
no.
stay out of the Central, that'd be nice.
Okay, guys, get this. So Taylor Hall is the king of getting the first overall pick. The Coyotes
It's
lose,
Arizona.
and then Arizona gets the first overall pick.
Oh God.
It could happen. It's a thing.
If that happens,
You
then
know?
Taylor Hall is an insider. He's a spy for
Insider.
the freaking.
I might try to sign Taylor Hall just for that reason.
Yeah.
Although I guess that means we missed the playoffs. Sign Taylor Hall and then trade for someone else's pick.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yep.
then that's the one that's the lottery pick.
Yep. No matter what happens, I mean, it's as equals of a chance as the Canadians getting it in my eyes. Although I think
Man.
the Coyotes
How
have
many
a little bit
number
better of a
ones?
chance.
How many number ones has Taylor Hall won? So he got the Nugent Hopkins
McDavid?
draft, McDavid,
And then
The,
both the ones.
both in New Jersey, so Heischer and Hughes. Was he so when they had 3 in a row? Was he the first one or the second one? When Edmonton had the 3.
So he was
first
the
overall
first
picks.
one.
So then the 2 immediately following, plus McDavid, plus the 2 in New Jersey. So that's 5. And if Arizona wins, that'll be 6 times. The team Taylor Hall is on has won the first overall pick
I don't know if that's a good thing about Taylor Hall. And,
in 10 years.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
if
I don't
that's-
know.
I mean, just the fact that his
For a
teams
star
have been in that
player.
position. Just the fact that his teams
Yeah.
have been in that position to be picking first overall.
Yeah, for a star player, that's not necessarily what you're looking for.
No, especially from a Hart Trophy winner. So, I know. Well, I have my opinions on who should have won that Hart, in that season. But yeah, I won't get into
Yeah.
it. Piss off some Devils fans. Although I don't know if the Devils are really too mad about it. If I'm saying that because Taylor Hall's not even on their team anymore.
Yeah, that's true. They're good now. They're like, hey, we're all right. Although I guess now that Taylor Hall's not on their team, they didn't win the lottery. Now they're picking all the way down at 6. So
Yeah, maybe they should
maybe
have
they
kept
should have
him
hung
on.
on to him. All right, let's get into our main event here. Let's talk mock draft. Marshall, do you have a preference? Would you like evens or odds? I don't have a coin on me, but we could flip one if we need to.
Zach, do you have a
I
coin
got
on you?
Oh yeah. Who wants heads? Who
Okay.
wants tails?
Tails never fails, baby. Give
okay.
me that.
Ooh, Marshall has
Yeah,
tails.
there
Here
we
we
go.
go. Marshall starts.
All right. Hell
All
yeah.
right.
So
Good. I
I
actually wanted to pick
So
evens.
Marshall has evens. Billy has odds.
No, I have evens.
Okay.
Marshall has odds because Marshall has 1.
All
So-
right. NHL placeholder team, probably the Canadians, is now on the clock. Who are you picking at number 1?
This is a hard one for me. Just kidding. Alexis Lafreniere. Come on. Get up to the podium. Let's put on that Habs jersey. Yeah.
It's happening. You heard it here first. He's going to the Habs.
This kid is absolutely electric. I mean, he was back-to-back Canadian Player of the Year. Had 2.15 points per game this season with 112 points in only 52 games played. This kid is going to be the next Sidney Crosby, in my opinion.
Okay, I was going to ask you current NHL comparable. So Sidney Crosby, you think?
Yep, I'm thinking Sidney Crosby
Okay.
plays a lot like him. Doesn't have that absolute explosiveness to his game like a Connor McDavid, but plays a very technical game and is very highly skilled, much like Crosby. So yeah, I'm saying Crosby is my pro comparison for Lafreniere.
Alrighty, here we go. I guess Los Angeles Kings are now on the clock. We're going to have Billy take our number 2 pick.
All right. So, this guy has kind of risen up here towards the end. So, for most of the year, Quentin Byfield was at number 2, but just recently we've had a little bit of a horse race here. So, with the second overall pick, the Los Angeles Kings select Tim Stützle out of Germany.
Ooh,
Wow.
interesting.
This is another prospect that I love in this class. Left-handed center. He can... Not a huge guy, at 6 foot, 187, but very, very solid. He doesn't play like he's tiny, He can shoot the puck, he can skate, and, great German prospect. The other key thing is that he's a center. The LA Kings took Turcotte last year, but he really looks like a 2C. They're a team that needs that 1C, and when you're picking in the top 3, this is where you get it. So they're going to go ahead and take the swing, a little bit of a risk. I know Byfield has been the guy for most of the year, but, just recently, even in Bob McKenzie's latest rankings, Stützle has passed Byfield. So I'm all on board for that. I've been on board for that all year because I love this kid. Yeah, he's going at 2.
All right, let me get a current NHL comparable for him as well.
Ooh, this is a tough one.
Or a ceiling player, if that makes it a little bit easier.
I think that if I have to give him a compare, I think Claude Giroux is a good comparison.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one solid 1C, can play well in both ends, but really known for his offense.
Stützle also plays a lot of wing too, so
he does. He can play wing if Turcotte does turn out to be that 1C.
yeah. All right.
All right, here we go with pick number 3. It looks like we got the Ottawa Senators are now on the clock. Here we go, Marshall.
Really quick, I'd just like to say the Senators have repositioned themselves very well. Getting this draft from San Jose. I know Sharks fans are probably not really liking this Erik Karlsson deal at this point, but a couple years ago I thought that the Senators would just absolutely be abysmal for the next 10 years, but they have 2 of the top 5 picks, and I'm going to be picking both of them here. So, all right. The Ottawa Senators are proud to select from the Ontario Hockey League, Quentin Byfield.
Ooh.
And I feel like this one's extremely easy for me. I mean, if you're looking at, I'm not saying he's McDavid, but in terms of just like McDavid light skill and skating ability, this kid is up there.
Yeah.
He was my second favorite player in the draft all year long. I thought it was going to be even like a close race between him and Lafreniere at the beginning of the year, but Lafreniere just kind of exploded and ran away with that number 1 consensus pick. But yeah, this is an easy one for me. I'm not going to say that his pro comparison is a Connor McDavid, but if you have a Connor McDavid light, that's who Quentin Byfield is to me.
Interesting. Okay, we're moving on to probably our most hated team through us 3, the Detroit Red Wings, picking at number 4. Billy, go ahead and take it away. You're on the clock.
All right, so this is another surprising one, but anyone who saw my mock draft on Twitter, if you haven't already, check it out at Off-Brand Avs. I'm taking the Detroit Red Wings with the 4th overall pick select from the United States National Development Team, Jake Sanderson.
Oh.
Another late riser, but yeah, so you'll get it in my explanation. Drysdale widely considered the number 1 defenseman in the class, but we know that Detroit just last year took Moritz Seider 6th overall. If they were to take Drysdale again, then they would be taking 2 right-handed defensemen in the top 6 in back-to-back years. Sanderson has really started to close the gap on Drysdale in the late process here. So, like, these are closer than a lot of people think. You know, there are scouts on NHL teams that do have Sanderson above Drysdale right now. And Sanderson has a left-handed shot, which somewhat surprising for the American player to have the left-handed shot and the Canadian to have the right. But you know, if you're Detroit, you just took your right-handed defenseman in the last draft at 6th overall. Now you're sitting at 4th. You're like, hey, we could get another top-pairing defenseman. But there's two players. They're both real close. One of them's a righty and one of them's a lefty. I'm leaning towards the lefty, and I think it might pay off because I think Sanderson is right in that same tier as Drysdale. I think this is a two-headed defensive class. So I think that this is if you can get some Vegas odds on this one, this is a bet I would like to place. Just as like this is a dark horse pick that I really think could happen.
Interesting. Do you have an NHL comparable for him?
I do not. Just
a solid,
general two-way defenseman.
Okay.
Like a Seth Jones.
Seth Jones type.
Yeah, there you go. Seth Jones is a good one.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Number 5, the Ottawa Senators are back up. Marshall, go ahead and take it away.
So the Senators are jumping out of their seats to select Jamie Drysdale from the Ontario Hockey League's Erie Otters. Billy just touched on it. This is a bit of a two-headed defensive class, but in my opinion, Drysdale is the best defenseman in this draft. And if the Senators can lock down, in my opinion, the second overall best player, and then the top defenseman, they're getting an A+++ from me. So, yeah, like this is an absolute like 1-2 punch that they're adding to maybe even their roster next season. I don't know if Drysdale is really entirely pro ready yet. I do think that Quentin Byfield is, but still, the Ottawa Senators.
I don't know. I'd give Byfield another year in the OHL.
Really, you think he's really big?
Yeah,
he's 6'4", 215.
But his game isn't. I don't think his game is quite there. I think he. I guess maybe on the Senators he'll play, but I think there's a good chance he goes back. The only guy in this class that I would 100% drop into the NHL is Lafreniere. I think everyone else could use a year.
Okay. Either way, a couple years down the line, like Ottawa's, their forward core is coming together really nicely, and then a defensive core of Shabbat, Brandstrom, and Drysdale. That's going to be pretty scary.
All right. Interesting picks. We're taking it out west. Number 6, the Anaheim Ducks. Billy, go ahead and take it away.
All right, you threw me off there because I kind of had a winger penciled in for the Senators, so the Ducks were definitely praying that a defenseman could fall to them because they desperately need one, particularly a right-handed one. But at this point in the board, it's 6th overall. There's no one worth reaching for here. So they're going to go ahead and they grabbed Zegras last year to be their 1C of the future. This year they're going to grab their 2C because at 6th overall, the Anaheim Ducks select from the OHL, Marco Rossi.
Okay.
This is a guy that I think plays like Claude Giroux.
I think he could. I think that this is probably like your custom-built 2C. He's one of the most NHL-ready players in the class. Like I said, I'd give everyone a year. But definitely, this is a one-year guy. I think he's playing next year for sure. Well, the following year. You know what I mean, for sure. Pro player comparison, I'll go ahead and give you that now. I think he's Braden Point. I think he looks a lot like Braden Point. One of the smartest players in this class, defensively responsible, and really, I like him. I think he can fit in on pretty much any team, which is I strongly considered taking him for Detroit. I think they could have used him as well. But there is not a team in the NHL that wouldn't love to have Marco Rossi on their team. Yeah,
another thing is he led the CHL in scoring with 120 points in 56 games. So it's not like he doesn't have that offensive, electricity to him. So
yeah, absolutely. He can play he's very strong on both ends.
Yeah.
All right. Number 7, looks like we got the New Jersey Devils on the clock. Marshall, go ahead and take it away.
So I am the New Jersey Devils are picking Alexander Holtz from the Swedish Elite League.
Really?
Yes, this is one.
I'm surprised to see Holtz over Raymond.
I like Holtz better than Raymond.
I do too, but that's because I like the shots. I think if I had to predict, I think that Raymond goes first, but definitely I like Holtz too. Go ahead and tell us more about him.
Well, so they already have their centers, like, of the future in check with Heishier and Jack Hughes.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that's not afraid to shoot the puck. He's a very strong skater, highly skilled, like I was saying, both him and Raymond. I think this is a guy that is going to fit really well next to either Heishier or Jack Hughes, or who are both a little bit of pass first type of guys. But
Yeah,
he's also
I do
able
like
to
the take
skate
there.
with both of them. This is one of my favorite players in the entire draft. I think in terms of upside, Holtz could end up being one of the better players in the next few years that comes out of this draft. But my pro comparison for him is a little bit of an Alex Nylander type. Very
Okay.
skilled. Pretty much the same size. He's 6', 192. Has a very good shot like Nylander, although Nylander likes to sail the puck a lot. But yeah, so that's my pick for the New Jersey Devils, and I think they're pretty proud about that.
So at number 8, we got the Buffalo Sabres picking last. Billy, what do you got for us?
Okay, so the board broke not so well for Buffalo. You know, this is a team praying that a center could follow them. They're begging that they're hoping that somehow they can get Marco Rossi. It didn't break well for him this time, so they still desperately need a center. So what they're gonna do here is the Buffalo Sabres select Cole Perfetti. He's more. I would play him at wing, but if you're Buffalo at this point, you're really looking between Raymond and Perfetti, and you're saying, well, Perfetti is more likely to be able to play that center position. I think he's Nick Suzuki, but a better version of Nick Suzuki.
Yeah.
He could be a very, very strong center in the future. He could good 2C behind Jack Eichel, but I think it's more likely that he plays on Eichel's wing down the line. Like I said, Buffalo, they need help all across the board. They could definitely use some wings, but they were really hoping to get a 2C here. The only position they're really set at is defense with Dahlin, Ristolainen, Montour,
Yeah.
Yoki Haru. But yeah, I think Perfetti is a good value here. I love the player. I just think that the board didn't break great for Buffalo in this particular instance.
He is another one of those centers that plays a really nice two-way game.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's exactly what Buffalo needs. Although, like
Which
you were
is funny.
saying,
Usually those aren't my type, but I keep drafting them.
what's that?
Usually those aren't my type of players, but I seem to keep drafting them in this mock.
Me either. But yeah, like you were saying, Marco Rossi would have been the ideal pick for the Sabres, but I don't even see Rossi getting past the Ducks or the Devils. So
Yeah, it's not. Oh, I don't think the Devils would take him. They're too stacked at center, but
yeah, that's true. Actually,
I think I think he has a hard time sliding past the Ducks unless Drysdale slides to the Ducks, and then it's possible. But it would take a weird chain of events for Rossi to get to Buffalo. A team that maybe trades up. Now that we're at the end here, I want to touch on neither of us took the Askarov bait.
no, I wasn't gonna do that. I don't think. I mean, goalies, you can find a really high end like potential goalie in the second round, and unless you're absolutely sold on like a Spencer Knight type, in my opinion, if I was a GM, I would never take a goalie in the first round.
The team that I think a team to watch is Ottawa. With the 2 picks in the top 5, they do have that luxury at 5 in particular, if they really fall in love with Askarov, they might take that swing, just because they have the luxury. They know they've got their guy at 3. They grab presumably we're assuming it's going to be a center, either Stützle or Byfield. They've got their 1C at 3. They might take that swing at 5.
I just think that the Senators need too much help on the offensive and the defensive side of the puck right now. And they they have a super solid chance of showing up both their defense and their number 1C. I don't see the Senators doing it, but you never know what these GMs are thinking.
Yeah, I mean, if any one of them falls in love with Askarov, if one of them thinks that this is our surefire star goalie, someone's going to take a swing. Like you said, you can find great prospects in the second and third round at goalie, but, a lot of those guys bust. So when you see the kind of goalie that only comes around every few years, if you truly believe in him, you kind of got to take that swing. If you look at, who I think is the best goalie in the NHL right now, Vasilevsky, was a first-round pick. So while there are, a ton of great goalies in the later rounds, some of the best of the best you're often finding in the first round.
Are they not sold on Marcus Hogberg, though? I thought that he was supposed to be the goalie of the
I don't
future.
think that they're maybe, he's there. He's not the kind of guy that you're we're going to not take Askarov for, they're okay with him is what seems to be the case. I don't know for sure. I don't know anyone in the Ottawa organization. But the impression that I get from them is that they're okay. They're we're okay with this if this is how we're moving forward, but if we get a chance to upgrade, we will.
Yeah, but I just don't see that happening with the 3rd or the 5th pick. I mean...
Okay.
Because, so that's just what I'm seeing, but, so, no goalies went in the top 8.
Yeah. It's fun. I'm curious to see where he does go. Some of the play-in teams that could get him, I've seen, Minnesota might be a good landing spot.
The Avalanche.
That seems incredibly unlikely, but I'd love it. Not Florida. They took their goalie last year.
Yeah, they did. And Dude, Florida has so many goalies in their, pipeline right now. It's kind of crazy.
They're solid, for sure.
I mean, with Bobrovsky, Spencer Knight.
They've got Bobrovsky to start. They've got Knight.
So.
And I think, they're basically banking on Bobrovsky, plays a few more years, and then they just ship him off and let Knight replace him, slide into that role.
Yeah. But they're paying Bobrovsky $10 million a year, so that might be a little bit hard to just ship him off.
Yeah. So I guess the other guy that fell out of our top 8, which I would be very surprised to see this happen in the real draft, but it did happen here, is Lucas Raymond. Surprisingly slid out completely of the top 8. In the mock draft I did earlier today, I had him going at 5.
Yeah. Yeah, he's another one of those Swedes that I could see being one of the better players in this draft, or just someone that never makes an NHL appearance. You never really know how that goes, but...
Yeah, anything can happen, And then my favorite player wasn't really projected in the top 8, but I want a chance to talk about him, is Jack Quinn. I think another guy that kind of rose, not really late in the process, but during the season, coming into the year, he was definitely further back. Rose into the top half of the first round throughout the season, and I think he has the best shot in the class, and that's his biggest selling point to me.
Yeah. 52 goals in 62 games. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. That's a guy that can shoot. Played with Marco Rossi, didn't he?
Yeah, did. Yep.
Get them both,
Ottawa
could do it.
Yeah, that Ottawa team is pretty solid this year.
Yeah, definitely. They have got, 2 prospects who likely go in the top 10 to 15, so real solid team. All right, any closing thoughts before we get out of this episode?
Not for me. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with my draft picks, and I think Ottawa, in my opinion, won the night.
Yeah, definitely. Hard to lose the night when you got 2 picks in the top 5.
Yeah, so.
All right, Zach. Any closing thoughts here?
No, I guess I don't really have anything to add this go around.
Good job, Kamish.
Oh, thanks, boys. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bettman.
No one booed
All
me.
right.
I'll take it.
Thank you to all our listeners. We are available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you like what you're seeing here from Off Brand, go support us on Patreon at patreon.com/off_brand. And we will see you next Monday for our next episode.